It's October, isn't it? Good evening. The October meeting of the City of Scranton Zoning Hearing Board will now come to order. Will the Secretary please take roll?
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. Morris.
Here.
Ms. Patel.
Here.
Mr. Marks.
Here.
Chairman Gattens.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the Pennsylvania State Sunshine Law, this board shall render its decision on each case either at the end of each hearing or within 45 days of the hearing. If you are to give testimony in a case, please come to the podium, raise your right hand, and wait to be sworn in. After being sworn in, state your name and address and proceed with your testimony. Also, anyone giving testimony who does not become a party to the case may obtain a written decision from the zoning office. I have two announcements of law. If you are granted a variance or a special exception, you must wait 30 days from the date of our decision to obtain the necessary permits to start the work. However, you may obtain a permit sooner by signing a waiver that any work done during that 30-day period is at your own risk. A favorable decision by the board shall expire 12 months from the date of said authorization in accordance with Section 111I of the zoning ordinance. If you fail to obtain the necessary permits or do not comply with any or all conditions of said authorization, you must seek an extension. Any remarks from the board? Mr. Sweeney, can you attest to the postings, please?
Yes, I, Jack Sweeney, zoning officer for the City of Scranton, do solemnly swear that I posted the following addresses with a notice of zoning hearing for tonight's meeting. 819 Richter Avenue, 1800 North Washington Avenue, 1730 Dixon Avenue, 1005 South Webster Avenue, 1663 North Kaiser Avenue, 605-607 Hampton Street. The properties were posted on October 1st, 2018.
Thank you. Before we begin, as I'm sure you all can see, we have a full house here tonight, and we have a couple cases that I think a lot of people are involved in, and I'm asking everyone to treat each other with respect when it comes to being at that podium. We're not going to tolerate any yelling out. If you disagree with any testimony given, you will have your chance to come to that podium. So I'm asking everyone to act professional in this room tonight, and we'll get through these cases. Thank you. Can you call the first case, please?
Agenda item number 1, Bo Sarah's, 819 Richter Avenue. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Could you please state your name and address and spell your name?
James Sarahs, James-Sarahs, 819 Richter Avenue, Scranton, PA 18510.
You can proceed.
Okay. I've been dealing a lot with Jack Sweeney over this, and the woman who was handling it is actually in the hurricane down in Florida. So hopefully you have the paperwork in front of you. I'm looking to put two homes next to mine. I own the lot next to my house, one for my mom, one for my dad, and I'm just looking for the variance to have the door where the gable side is as opposed to long ways.
So you're also looking for variance for lot setback relief?
Right, right, and also to obviously split the lot for the two houses.
And the other house is going to be a rental unit?
Well, one for my mom, one for my dad. Yeah, they're going to live there.
Are they going to occupy both houses?
My mom's going to occupy one, my dad's going to occupy another.
Okay. And what property do you own?
I own,
looking in at that property.
I own the property that I'm looking to put the house on. My house is built right next to it to the right, and I own the property down from that. So I own 3 properties together on that street.
So the one going up the hill you don't own? Looking in at your lot, the house to the left, do you own that house?
No, I do not.
Okay, you own the house to the right of
Yes,
that
sir.
lot? Okay.
So Jack, what is the issue here with the trailer? The way it's running, the direction that it's running?
Correct, the direction in which it's running, the length should be facing the street.
Well, there's other
Yeah.
variances that are needed here. He's in an R1A zone,
Correct.
so his minimum lot area required is 5,000 square feet. Splitting these lots in two, he's got over 6,000, so he's okay there. However, the minimum lot width is 40 feet, front and rear, and he's got 37.6 for each proposed lot. So he needs a variance of 2.4 feet for each of those lots. And the other variance he needs is the side setback requirements are 4 feet on one side and a total of 12 feet between the two sides. He has 4 feet on one side, but a total of 8 feet between the two sides. So the two variances he needs would be the minimum lot width and the side setback.
setbacks, right.
So you said you own property to the right of your existing house, is that
Yes.
correct? How come you don't have another house over there on that lot instead of trying to jam them in this one lot?
That lot is, it's flood zone, it can only be used for recreation. It can't be, nothing can be built on it.
And what are the exact dimensions of these houses?
The ones that I'm putting on the lots?
Yes.
14, between 14 to 44, up to 56.
I have a couple concerns, and one is your setback on the left side of your property, the house that you don't own. You only want to come 4 feet off of that. And then in between the houses as well. We're just coming 4 foot off of each property, or off the center line. And one of the concerns I have is going forward, if we were to sell this property, we've created something that someone else has to live with. Is there anyone else here to give testimony in this case?
Apparently not.
There's another issue I'm looking at. So you're actually going to take part of your own driveway away.
Correct.
How much of that driveway is going to be left? Now, is that a garage where it says concrete pad on the right-hand side? Is that a garage that goes to? Is there a
Yes.
car? So the side one is just a pad
That's all it
that
is.
leads up to your deck there?
Correct.
So you're going to have to change your deck around and everything at that
Yes,
point? Okay.
yes. And those stairs on the side will be removed, because
Right.
that's actually part of the other lot as well.
Did you talk to your neighbor to the left there to see how they felt about it or anything like that?
Oh, yes, they're actually new neighbors, so I spoke to them as soon as they moved in, and they were just at my house a couple weeks ago.
They were okay with the project?
Yes.
I have nothing else. I'd make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Chairman Gattens?
No. By a vote of 4 to 1, you have been approved.
Okay,
Good luck.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, Brick Investment Corporation, 1800 North Washington Avenue.
If you're going to give testimony, we're going to have you both sworn in before we get started, so, okay? So if you could go to the microphone, please. You raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you please state your name and address and spell your last name, please?
My name is Hillary Levitt, spelled Levitt. I live at 1 Irving Place, apartment V27C, New York, New York, zip code 10003.
Thank you. You raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your name and address and spell your last name?
My name is Jerry Gutierrez. I live at 449 South 43rd Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19106.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Last name is spelled Gutierrez.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonder if we could have just a moment when Mr. Gutierrez puts up his easels and
Sure.
the things that he has to put on them. I'd suggest putting them over. No, he can't see us. He can't see us.
Where? I mean, the only other place is there,
Yeah,
but
right
then we're
here.
blocking.
Okay.
Perhaps if you could put it over here, where you're standing now, Mr. Gutierrez, so that some of the neighbors could see what
Okay.
you're referring to. Well, just facing this way so that at least as many people as possible,
They could have a glimpse of, we could see it.
as many people as possible could see it.
And there's also a microphone right there that you could use to speak into if you're going to be at that board, yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Sean, can you sit?
Stand like this.
Jerry, if you want to sit down, go right ahead. Sit down. Good evening. For the record, my name is Patrick Lavelle. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of Brick Investment Corporation, who's the applicant in this matter. Hillary Levitt has already been introduced and has been sworn, so I will just proceed now to have some questions for her. Can you tell us, is Brick Investment Corporation an affiliate of Urban Smart Growth?
Yes.
And has Brick Investment Corporation entered into an option agreement with Marywood University on or about January 3 of 2018?
Yes.
Okay, and pursuant to that option agreement, has Brick Investment Corporation pursued with an architectural firm known as Group G LLC a development plan for Marywood South?
Yes.
Now, tonight, when I use the term Marywood South, what I'm referring to is a property which is partially located in the city of Scranton and partially located in Dunmore Borough. It was acquired by Marywood pursuant to a deed dated December 2, 2010, and duly filed as instrument number 2011001145. Approximately 9.1 acres and one building only, which we will refer to tonight as building number 1, is located in Scranton, which fronts on the 1800 block of North Washington Avenue, and the remainder of the property, which consists of approximately 6.66 acres and 8 buildings, are located in Dunmore. And they have access from Jefferson Avenue and North Washington Avenue as well. Now, are you a participant in the planning of the proposed acquisition and development of what is referred to as Marywood South?
Yes.
Okay. I have presented to the members of the Zoning Hearing Board and to some other interested parties here this evening a handout. Are you familiar with this handout?
Yes.
Okay. And would you tell us, tell the members of the Zoning Hearing Board what is depicted on the first page of this handout, which is also depicted on this board to your left, to your right here. Could you tell us what is that?
Sure. What you're seeing on the first page here of the handout and also on this poster board is a concept plan that we are proposing for the project for all 9 buildings. And we have highlighted the points to discuss to date that are located in the city of Scranton.
Okay. Now, with respect to what is depicted on the board and here, part of it has the number 1 on it. Is that building number 1?
Yes.
Okay. And that fronts on North Washington Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Immediately adjacent to that, to the right-hand side, is what?
Parking lot.
Okay. And looking at that parking lot as is depicted on that drawing and the handout that we presented to the members of the Zoning Hearing Board, could you tell us approximately how many parking spaces are indicated immediately adjacent to building number 1?
The number of parking spaces proposed to be in Scranton is 110, just to the right of the building.
Okay.
What was that number again?
110.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, an issue that's been raised prior to us coming here this evening with respect to parking on North Washington Avenue, are you familiar with the position of Urban South and Brick Investment Corporation with respect to the necessity of having parking on North Washington Avenue to, in essence, provide parking to people who might live hereafter in Marywood South?
We are proposing the number of parking spaces so that they will adequately provide the number of parking spaces which we believe that the project will need, not only for its residents, but also for people visiting the property. So we are not making any arrangements or necessary requirements to have parking on the street, and we are making arrangements to have parking for the tenants and patrons of the property off-site or off the street on the property.
Thank you. I'm going to direct your attention to the second page of this handout. And on the second page of the handout, there is you tell us what is on the second page of the handout, if you will.
Second page of the handout is an aerial view of the ground floor of Building 1, the subject building.
If we could wait just a moment so he can put up the depiction of that. Thank you. So, looking at what is Mr. Gutierrez has just placed on the easel, is it the lower rendering that we're referring to now?
Yes.
Okay. And so this would be on the second page of the handout that we've supplied to the members of the Zoning Hearing Board. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell us what is depicted on page 2 of this handout?
Sure. So I'm going to start at the top right corner and kind of just work towards the left of the property of the building.
Is this building number 1?
This is building number 1, yes.
Okay.
So you'll see an area labeled entry pavilion. This is a structure that we're proposing to be built to act as the main entrance to the property, or to the building, sorry. It'll be tucked inside the property off the street, adjacent to the parking that we just described to the right. Working down on the page, you'll see the word coffee. This is part of the plan where we envision a coffee bar. The size of this space would be approximately 400 square feet. And we envisage tenants and neighbors just coming by for a coffee and pastry in the morning. Working further to the left and a little bit down on the page, you'll see gallery and events. This is an open space where we see kind of community events that would be programmed by the owner and operator, which would be us, and also act as an amenity space to the tenants in the neighborhood. Just further left of there is a white rectangle kind of to the bottom that is an existing kitchen that is currently there from the previous use of the school, and there's infrastructure still in place. So just above that where you see the word restaurant, that is about a 1,200 square foot restaurant that we are proposing to put there. And just for some context, 1,200 square feet would be about 40-person capacity. Yes.
Okay, so just going back for just a minute to the something that's almost a rectangle fronting on the North Washington Avenue portion of the building. You mentioned that there's infrastructure in there. Is that infrastructure for a kitchen?
Yes.
Okay, and it's already there, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, looking at the building again, the left-hand side towards the rear, what did you say that's proposed to be?
A restaurant.
Okay. Would it be in that area that that the applicant is proposing to serve alcoholic beverages?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other portion of that building where the applicant has any kind of a bar or anything that would lend itself to the appearance of a bar?
No.
No. Okay. Can you tell us, is there any intention that you are aware of to create what may be characterized as a corner bar in this building?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, if you will, to go to the, let's stay with that page for just a minute. Now, from the developer's perspective, is there anything special about Building 1's location on North Washington Avenue?
Yes, we believe that this would be act as a natural gateway to the rest of the project.
Okay. And from the developer's perspective, is the proposed use of Building 1 as a restaurant serving alcoholic beverages a necessary component to make the project economically viable?
Yes. We have experience in this, and we find that this type of mixed use and offering a place for tenants and neighbors to convene, share a meal, share a drink, really brings the property to life and creates a community, which is how our projects strive.
All right. Does Building Number 1's existing kitchen infrastructure on the ground floor make it an optimal place for a restaurant serving alcoholic beverages?
Yes, I believe that they're complementary uses, so it's a natural place to put that.
You mentioned before, when we looked at the first drawing, which we don't have to go back to, but you mentioned that there's to be a new enclosed entranceway constructed by the developer on the south side of the building that would be adjacent to where the parking is going to be expanded, parking lot is going to be expanded. Can you tell us, is that something which is actually key to the development of Building Number 1?
We believe that what we're proposing as making that the main entrance is a way to direct traffic and pedestrian traffic inside the property and through the building that way, to make the entrance on North Washington not the main entrance.
Now, can you tell us, or maybe you've already told us, how many parking spaces will be in the area immediately adjacent to Building Number 1?
Within the Scranton boundaries, 110.
Okay. Now, has the possibility of reconfiguring any of the other 8 buildings in the project as a restaurant been considered?
Yes, we've conducted a preliminary analysis considering the location, configuration, and placement of the other buildings, and our assessment has led us to believe that this is the optimal place. Building number 1.
Okay. That's all I have for this witness right now. May I bring up Mr. Gutierrez?
I have a few questions I want to get to right now, when she's still at the podium there.
Yeah, just, let me first interject, just to clear the record. I don't think you gave us, that Ms. Levitt gave us her relationship to the applicant.
All right. What is your relationship to the applicant?
I'm a consultant to the applicant
And how long have you been a consultant to the applicant?
since April of this year.
Okay. And have you participated in the development of these plans, which we're discussing with this board tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you off, Bob.
It's okay. I have a couple of questions. Let's start with the bar. So I'm going to take it that in that bar, according to your testimony, will be just tables? There won't be a bar set up like a normal bar has?
There'll be a small kind of standing bar where people can order a drink, or there'll be a kind of a stool, but the majority of the seating is going to be table seating for a restaurant.
And what hours of operation will this restaurant/bar operate as?
At this present time, we don't have confirmed hours. That's sometimes influenced by the residents. However, kind of a normal operating restaurant offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner without going late into the evening, as it's a neighborhood restaurant bar.
That front entrance, like, I have a concern with that still being open, because I know you can say that people won't park on North Washington Avenue, but if there's a door there to go in, people will park there to go in there. Is there any way that in your project you can actually block that door off?
I think that's a question for the architect, because I know it relates to fire safety and egress and ingress code regulations that we have to meet.
Right, but I'm sure you could put a fire door there that operates from the inside out.
I think that would be another question for the arch. He's nodding yes.
Okay, well, we'll question him when he comes up.
Thank you.
Let's go to the second and third floor. We didn't discuss them.
The second floor of the building?
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the use for this? Is a second and third floor there, correct?
Yeah, so at the back of the handout, the last couple pages, there are floor plans for the second and third floor. Sorry, I don't know the exact page number.
Sure.
Here we're proposing on each floor, so 16 units, live-work studio units on the second floor, and another 16 on the third floor.
So there, you are putting apartments in that building on the second and third floor?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the square footage of each apartment?
They average at about 400 square feet each, give or take a few square feet for each of them.
So are we looking, Dan and Jack, are we looking for a variance to reduce the size of them apartments down?
Our minimum is 600 square feet, so
Yeah.
if they're proposing 400, they're going to need a variance for that.
So,
What I would bring your attention is that the issue that we came here to discuss tonight is the restaurant serving alcoholic beverages. What appears on the second and third floors are really just preliminary renderings. We understand that if we don't have a minimum of 600 square feet, then we won't satisfy the ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, we understand that.
okay, I just want,
So you're not going to be able to fit 16 units in there?
Say that to me again?
You're not going to be able to fit 16 units on each
I don't
floor?
think so. I don't think so. If it's, the minimum is 600 square feet, then the answer is we can't. That was not really a goal. What we wanted to show is simply that there's an intention to use that for apartments and art studios. That's really the only intention.
but I just wanted clarified that.
Sure.
Like, what I seen was 350 square feet and 450 square feet in this breakdown that was presented to us, and it caused me some concern because we're going below the 600 and it wasn't being brought up.
Understood, understood.
So we are going to stay at 600 square feet with these units?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
If it's not, we have to come back and get a variance.
Yes. Where's the entrance to get into your parking lot in the rear of this building here? On your first map, maybe you could show us.
Are you talking about the parking lot that's kind of highlighted in gray?
Yeah, the one that you're going to use for this building here. Where would the entrance off, what street, and how would you access that parking lot?
The existing driveway that's currently there off of North Washington Avenue.
Okay. Okay. Want to bring the architect?
I still have some clarifications. On the application, the mixed-use application says restaurant with bar, and I think the word bar was bothering a lot of people here. Under our definition of restaurant says the clear majority of sales are from food, which are delivered to a table and consumed at the table, while a bar is where alcoholic beverages are served as a substantial portion of the total trade. Which of these is this, what you're calling restaurant, going to be?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
Which of does it fit the definition of restaurant or bar as to what your proposed restaurant is going to be?
The goal is to use it as a restaurant.
Okay, so you're representing to us that the clear majority of the sales are going to be for food.
Yes, sir.
Which would be ordered and delivered to a table.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The application also says live/work art studio. I didn't hear any testimony as to that.
Well,
what is that?
That's the second and third floors.
Okay. But you just told us it was residential on the second and third floors.
Dan, I think they're calling it, it's live/art
Yes.
studio?
Okay.
Yeah.
I had the same misconception.
Okay. I missed that. Sorry.
That's okay.
And let's go to the event space, which I guess you have labeled gallery/events. What type of events are you talking about?
I would foresee some of the tenants on the second and third floor to be artists. So event, kind of showing their work, a kind of community event, gathering, kids' birthday party, kind of, events that people who live around the neighborhood would need a space to host.
So it's not limited to the residents within your Marywood South
No.
Development?
No.
Can I book a wedding there?
Yes. That's what we're right now intending to be able to do as well.
And do you have the square footage of that space?
It's 4,250 square feet.
I don't have anything further.
Sorry, do you mind just giving me 1 second, please?
Sure. Yes, if the board doesn't have any more questions, we'll.
In furtherance of the questions that you had and that Chairman Gattens had, I just want to direct your attention to what I believe is the fourth slide from the back, which has a depiction on it, view to restaurant, and the number 6 adjacent to it. I'm sorry, the pages are not numbered, but it would be the fourth slide from the back, view to restaurant, it's number 6, and I think that has a depiction of what I will call the restaurant area.
If you go back a couple pages, I think. Another one. Yeah.
What would your maximum capacity of individuals attending an event in your gallery?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure.
I think the reason he's asking that is because the parking requirement depends on how many seats are within that auditorium.
Right.
Because with that gallery being rented out to, say, neighbors for a wedding or anyone for a wedding or anything like that, you've increased the usage of your parking lot at that point.
Right.
I mean, you're going to have tenants upstairs, you have a bar and restaurant that's still going to be operating, and a wedding going on. And have you taken into account, like, are you going to maximum number, 100 people, 200 people?
So we can extrapolate, so based on the square footage of the restaurant, which we approximate 40 seated capacity there, so 4,000 for the event space, so 40 times 4, so 160 could potentially be seated in there, but probably not that much considering you'd have to have area for service flow and that sort of thing, so maybe, in the 1 to 150 range. And secondly, we are in discussions with Marywood University to utilize some of their off-site, so off this campus, on their other campus parking lots for more high-traffic nights, and we would direct them to park there if the parking right adjacent to the building 1 filled up.
Yeah. And again, that comes back into that front door again, because if you have an event going on and you're having a good night in your bar and restaurant, which we hope you would, if I could park in front of that building, I'm going to park in front of that building. I'm not going to shuttle or, go up to Marywood a block away and park in a parking lot. And that becomes a concern with me with on-street parking in a residential neighborhood.
We are willing to work with the city, if they want to put up no parking signs, or if, they want to say you have to have permit parking, that's something that we're willing to discuss with the city.
Well, that would be a city decision.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anything?
Okay, Pat, well, no, before she's dismissed, the Neighborhood Association has some questions.
Sure. Good evening, Ms. Hines, Attorney General Walsh. A couple of questions. Is it fair to say that it's the goal of your development that the Scranton Commons will be fully accessed by the North Washington entrance and exit?
And there's also an entrance and exit way off of Jefferson.
Correct, but are you considering the gateway entrance to be North Washington Avenue, according to any type of study?
Attorney Dempsey, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Could you possibly, either this microphone over here? Thank you.
Is this okay here?
Just make sure the mic is on.
Here, I can do that. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look at you behind this. Okay, thank you. So, ma'am, is it fair to say that the main access to the Scranton Commons development will be provided via one full access on North Washington Avenue, both via entry and exit?
Most likely, yes.
And am I correct? I don't know. You've seen the property, obviously. And as it tentatively stands, Jefferson Avenue, the avenue behind the property, is tentatively a one-way street. Is that accurate?
I believe so, yes.
And the Evelyn Street side that abuts the property, do you anticipate using that for any type of deliveries to the bar and/or restaurant?
We haven't considered that yet. We would use the deliveries, but I believe that some flow of traffic would be into the property off of North Washington, as there are parking spots there, and it continues through to Jefferson.
So you would not expect people to use the Evelyn Street side for ingress and egress?
I don't think so, no, to the best of my knowledge right now.
And is it fair to say that the Evelyn Street side is about 9 feet wide and could not accommodate 2 cars going the same way at the same time?
If she knows.
If she does, but no need to coach her either.
I don't know.
Thank you. Now, ma'am, currently there are 44 parking spots there. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you are planning on adding 110 new ones. Is that accurate?
No, we're planning on having 110 total.
Oh, including the 44?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So
within the Scranton boundary.
In Scranton, correct. We're still in the Scranton today. I understand there's additional parking through Dunmore.
Do I understand that the soccer field will remain where it is, will remain elevated, and parking will be put up on almost a second-tier level where the soccer field now stands?
I don't think, of the best of my memory, that there's that much of a grade change, but we're not planning currently to make any sort of significant elevation changes.
So could you foresee where there would be level 1 of parking on the ground and level 2 of parking on what we would call a current soccer field?
I don't understand your question.
Okay, so when you enter that property via North Washington Avenue, there is literally parking right there next to the building, correct?
Yes, you do have to kind of drive up a bit of an incline.
Kind of a little incline, correct. Then you would also go up another incline, and there is a large soccer field that the school put in. You're going to keep that and keep that second-tier parking.
I don't want to say yes or no to second-tier parking. We're not planning on any significant elevation or grade changes with that part of the property.
Okay. Did the developer come tonight?
No.
Oh, he didn't? Okay. Why not?
He had a previous speaking engagement in Boston.
Oh, he did? Okay. Was a traffic study done by any chance?
Yes.
And was that provided to the zoning board?
No.
Okay. Will that be, please?
It can be.
I would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
If the zoning board asks to see it, I will provide it to them. Well, I'll ask my client if I can provide it to them.
Thank you. We spoke earlier about the restaurant and how long you would anticipate it would be kept open, and quite frankly, you don't have an answer for that. Is that accurate?
We haven't committed to any, exact times, no.
And there were also questions about weddings, and again, we don't have any idea how long into the evening the weddings would go. Is that correct?
We have not committed to any specific time frames, no.
And I also saw on some plan that I was privy to that there is an outdoor space that I do believe is partially Scranton that looks like it might have a stage. Is that accurate for performances?
There's not necessarily a stage. It's kind of a use we were thinking. But yes, there is part of an outdoor courtyard that's located in Scranton.
Okay, and would bands and or concerts be held there perhaps?
Not necessarily.
Okay, what is envisioned there?
Just an outdoor space for residents and neighbors to convene. If some of the indoor events require some outdoor space, there's that there, or even just a picnic or to read a book.
Okay.
It's kind of an open space.
Now, we've talked about the wedding venue, and I know a lot of this isn't done with a bed and breakfast in the apartments. We've also got there was a distillery at one point. Is this distillery still going to take place or not?
Distillery was just a potential use that we thought about because someone approached it to us. We are not committed to a distillery. It's just kind of on a list of potential commercial uses.
Yeah, and it's on one set of plans. Is that accurate?
It says potential event space or distillery.
Attorney Dempsey, I'm going to interrupt you. Just keep it to the location in Scranton. That's in the Dunmore area. Thank you.
Sure, no, I'd be happy to. Let me go back to the parking very quickly. Is there anything that your development is planning that can or will prevent overflow parking onto the street, whether it be North Washington Avenue, Evelyn Street, Columbia Street, Electric Street, etc.?
I'm not exactly sure what answer you're looking for after the answers we've already provided on parking.
Okay, so let me rephrase the question. If someone is going to an event there and the parking lot is full, is there anything that the developer is going to do or propose that would prohibit them from parking on the street?
Yes, as I previously mentioned, we're in communications and discussions with Marywood University to utilize some of their parking lots, which are off-site and off-street.
So little shuttle buses would be going in and out as well?
We haven't figured that part out yet. That's an operational issue that we would address later on.
Okay. Do we know how long the bar will be open?
No, as I previously stated, we have not committed to any time frames.
Sorry.
I'm going to interrupt 1 second. Have you acquired a liquor license for that bar at this point?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
We've been in negotiations, but unless we get the opportunity to serve alcoholic beverages, we're not going to buy a liquor license.
Pat, would you say that again? I'm sorry. I wasn't.
I said we've been in negotiations, but we have not had the opportunity to buy a liquor license. No.
Not yet?
Not yet.
But it could happen in the future, correct?
It could.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, I was doing two things at once at one point. Did I also understand that Building 6 would be serving alcohol as well, or was that incorrect?
We're going to object to that. That's in Dunmore
Was it stated was really the only question? I'm not asking any further follow-up on it.
Answer the question, if you will.
Thank you.
It's not in Scranton.
Oh, that was
That
the
wasn't the
question.
question.
The
That wasn't the
question was,
question.
did you say that Building 6 would be serving alcohol?
I did not say that in this
Okay.
hearing, no.
That was my question, thank you. Now, you had also said that the coffee bar, you're anticipating that tenants and neighbors might walk over. I mean, certainly it would not be outside the realm of, supposition that people will also drive their cars there and park their cars and go to the coffee shop and or restaurant. Is that accurate?
I guess so, yes.
Okay, and is that included in your parking total?
Yes.
Okay, and you also...
Well, I'd like to clarify, what do you mean by included in the parking total?
Well, you have to have a certain number of parking spots, correct, for the type of use and the type of residential space that you're considering?
Yes.
Okay, so it's included.
We believe we have substantial parking, yes.
Are there going to be sprinkler systems placed in that new building?
I think that's a question for the architect.
Now, I apologize, I don't know if it was you or Mr. Lavelle. Someone had said we don't plan on making this a corner bar, which I appreciate, but I guess my second question is, what's your definition of a corner bar? So that I understand exactly what we're talking about here today.
This is the witness.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking Mr. Lavelle. What our definition of a corner bar is?
Sure.
I mean, I guess a bar where people start, I'm not really sure how to answer this question, to be honest. I think that's open to interpretation.
Okay. You just started working for the developer in April of this year, is that correct?
Yes.
May I ask about your background prior to that, please?
Can I please ask the zoning board if this is relevant to the hearing?
Actually, no one objected to it, so you can answer, please.
I'm objecting.
I think she can answer. I think it's relevant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So do you like an overview of my work background or my education?
Just work.
Just work. I have worked at Scotiabank and I've worked at a property consultancy company where I was an analyst, and I have worked as a salesperson for a commercial real estate brokerage.
And for how many years has that work history contained?
Approximately 5, I think.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Any follow-up? Oh. All right, wait,
You need
wait,
to
wait.
go to a
You need to go to podium and introduce who you are.
Are you an attorney? You sure? Stumbled on that one.
My name is Samantha Maloney. M-A-L-O-N-E-Y is my last name. I am an attorney. I was a JAG officer in the Army. However, my license is out of New Jersey, not out of Pennsylvania. So when you ask if I'm an attorney, I am, but I'm not licensed here in Pennsylvania. That's the hesitation.
Okay. I'm going to swear you in. Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
Samantha Maloney, M-A-L-O-N-E-Y. Address is 1009 Sunset Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509.
Thank you very much.
So I just have one question in regards to Evelyn Street. I missed your answer in regards to the traffic there. What do you foresee as the traffic on Evelyn Street?
I don't know what you mean by your question.
I missed what you had said earlier about Evelyn Street. You had said there was no deliveries at this time going to be on Evelyn Street. Is there going to be any traffic from the
I
space?
didn't say there was going to be no deliveries on Evelyn Street. I said we do not foresee, but right now we don't know because we don't have a variance yet, so we're not exactly sure how that building is going to be used. And, you know, we just estimate additional traffic based on, you know, people living there.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you so much.
Just one follow-up question, maybe it ties into their questions regarding that street. On your building, do you have like a delivery door, delivery dock? I mean, it's not showing anything like that as far as where deliveries would take place on your building.
I think it's a question for the architect.
Okay. Come on up.
Sir, would you tell the board your name, please?
Jerry Gutierrez.
And sir, what is your occupation?
I'm an architect. I work for Group G LLC, based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Are you the principal of that firm?
I'm the managing principal.
And are you a licensed architect in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
I am.
Are you also an AIA?
I am.
And how long have you been a practicing architect?
Approximately 27 years.
Do you have any specialty that you focus on?
A lot of our work in the commercial field is in mixed use, adaptive reuse, especially historic adaptive reuse projects, similar to this particular project.
Okay. In light of that background, I'm offering him as an expert witness.
Any objection?
Okay. Would you take just a minute and present to the board each one of these slides that you've taken the time to prepare and explain to them the architectural significance of what it is that is depicted? I think you're going to have to use.
No, we're going to need you to speak into the microphone, please.
No, it's okay.
That microphone
Mr.
down the
Gutierrez,
bottom.
yeah.
Oh.
You can move that one around on the
I
bottom.
can.
You could actually carry that with you.
So in any design project we undertake for our clients, especially a campus environment like this, what we look at is what are the natural characteristics of the site as well as each building. What we're trying to do is we're trying to find out what is it that we can maximize, what is it that we can reuse, what are the good things about the site and each building that can lend itself to be reused or to be repurposed so that it can continue to breathe and give it new life. In looking at Building 1, we understand, just looking at it, that it is facing a very public street, which is Washington Street. It is adjacent to an existing parking lot, which is located in this location, and that it serves as basically the first face to the public and to potentially the entire campus. So in looking at potential uses for that building, we understand that the previous use on the first floor was a cafeteria. It had a full-size commercial kitchen, and the upper floors were configured as classrooms with laboratories, science-type laboratories. So one logical step for this, as we continue to develop the entire property, is that Building 1 could become what we call a student union type use that would have food, beverage, as well as common spaces that can serve the residents of the rest of the development, as well as provide a transitional space between public, the community out here, and a way for public to come in and enjoy some of those amenities as well. But primarily what we looked at is that the predominant use of the amenities represented in Building 1 is for the tenants, as well as potentially the people that are working and living up on the upper floors.
Sir, if you could just pick up that microphone in your hand and you can speak into it, because when you're turning, they can't hear you out there.
I apologize. I apologize. Let's see if I can do this. Is this better? Okay. So basically, what we see here is that there's an existing parking lot located here that's accessed immediately off of Washington Avenue. The current configuration of the building is such that there is an entry off the parking lot that leads to an existing one-story tunnel, which then connects it to the rest of the buildings in this direction. However, the only primary entry that's of significance is the entrance off of Washington Street. However, in looking at the flow of people coming in from the parking lot, as well as trying to anticipate how the building is going to be used on all floors, we felt that it was important for us to introduce a new entry element so that it could become the new main entrance off of the parking lot, as well as a way to welcome and gracefully move people from the parking lot into Building 1, as well as a way to connect it to the rest of the development.
So I'm going to stop you right there, since we're on that building right there in the front. As I stated before, is there a possibility of sealing off that front door and just use it as an emergency exit and your main entrance in the back where you have it designated this time? And then the second question I had that they referred me to you to ask is, in your plans for that building on the first floor, since we're on the first floor, is there any kind of loading area, unloading area that you have perceived as where the deliveries to the kitchen would be, or catered food would be?
There is an existing loading area already on the building, which is access of this corner of the Washington. There's actually a raised dock already available. However, given the amount of traffic that might be on Washington Avenue, we foresee that it's going to be much easier for deliveries to come off of the parking lot and through the entry pavilion into the restaurant space.
So would you be eliminating that existing entry for deliveries?
It's not something that we discussed, but given the number of restaurants, we just finished a restaurant in Philadelphia, and loading, unloading is such a difficult challenge. So my suggestion, if we were to continue discussing this, is that it's a lot easier to come in off of the parking lot.
My concern is coming off of there, I'd be concerned about tractor trailers making deliveries off of North Washington Avenue right there.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
It's
you.
a big concern as well. Yeah.
Good.
Any other questions? I think that's it. Let me see. I think.
Point out the top one on the left-hand side. Explain what that is.
Which one?
Top one on the left-hand side.
Top one on the left.
Yes.
I can explain a little bit more about the restaurant. Predominantly, I think some of the questions were addressed as to how many dining and seating was available. We anticipate there to be different kinds of seating in the restaurant. We try to have booth seating. There's a lot of different kinds of seating that people want to have. Booths tend to be more private, and then loose tables tend to allow for more people to join them if that's the case. We also have what we call a community table, where maybe individuals would come and they don't have anybody with them, but so they can come to the community table and be served and meet people, meet other residents at that community table.
Is that community table just and I'm going to ask another name for a bar, what we know in this area as a bar.
Oh, no, it's not. It's just for dining. It's just for dining.
Just for dining, okay.
Right, yeah.
What's on the left-hand side of that?
At the corner, on the far left edge of this particular drawing, this is what we envision as the size of the bar, about 4 to 6 stools. I don't know if you see it here. Okay.
And this will be a restaurant, we'll assume, make an assumption, all right, that they will open to midnight. And the kitchen closes at 10 o'clock, so it'll be available for just drinks after that. Will they be served by waitresses, or someone would have to go up to that bar and purchase a drink?
If you know, answer.
In my experience, restaurants of this type, there'll be wait service to the tables.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you one more question before as you're putting your stuff together there. I know these are just renderings. Are these your final plans?
We're at a very early stage of the development of the project. This basically gives you a sense of the character and scale. No final decisions have been made for material or type of material, type of doors, anything technical like that. That's still in process.
So basically, the design you have for tables, booths, and a small standing area or a 4-stool area could change as well. The layout of the whole restaurant could change.
I think all of the furniture can change because it's loose. But I think in terms of a concept, the bar being that small and then seating throughout for dining, that's basically going to be the way it's going to be. Okay. I mean, we'll once we get into really refined design, we have to add waitress stations, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to bring up to your attention what the building looks like right now off of Washington Avenue. This is the existing entrance driveway off of Washington Avenue. This gives you a view towards the south side of Building 1. And as you can see towards, in this direction, this is the existing tunnel that you now enter to turn left and get into Building 1. And if you turn right, you would be moving towards the rest of the buildings, which are located in Dunmore. And the image on the right shows you the proposed entrance pavilion, which is this piece. So again, that would be basically providing multiple entrance doors into a high one-story space that would provide a really nice, welcoming environment for people coming in off the parking lot and trying to get to the first floor, Building 1, as well as turning right towards the rest of the buildings on the Dunmore side.
How wide is that current driveway?
I believe it's about, I know it's at least 22 feet wide.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I was just curious, is there any kind of signage or lighting you plan on putting around the parking lot area or onto the restaurant area?
Sure, signage is a very important part of a project like this. So at some point, once we have located all the components, we're going to have signage off of Washington Avenue to direct people, especially with deliveries, those kinds of things. And we do signage packages for our projects, so that's very much at the forefront initially in our mind in terms of how do we get people in and out efficiently. Yes.
What about lighting for the parking lot?
We have to provide lighting minimally per code, yes.
Yeah, Dan, my only question is, are we voting on those apartments or just what's on the application in front of us?
No, we're not voting on any apartments. Strictly what's on the application. The apartments if the apartments turn out to be designed at less than 600 square feet per apartment, they would have to come back to us for a variance on apartments. If they are 600 or more square feet per apartment, then they would be allowed to do that.
But how do we configure the parking, Dan, at that point? If
Well,
we
I
don't
think
know what's going in there.
I was doing some math. And Ms. Levitt said there were 16 studio units at 400 square feet each. That gives us 6,400 square feet. If we make sure that they're 600 square feet per apartment, that gives us 10 apartments on each floor. Max.
So we need 30 parking spots if they go to the 10 max on each floor.
Correct.
So looking at this project as to the point that we discussed right now, taking into account for the restaurant, taking into account for an event space, will that 110 spots fill the need?
Yes. If I break it down, the coffee shop was 400 square feet, which only requires 2 spots. The gallery events, if we say it's 100 to 150 seats, let's go to 160 seats. They need 40 spots. The restaurant has a 40-person capacity. That would be 10 spots, so the apartments would be 30, which gives us 82. Now we have to add employees to the 82, but for all those events, I would think that 28 additional spots would be sufficient. Okay. I guess I want to make sure with Mr. Gutierrez that you concur with Ms. Levitt's depiction of the square footage of each of those things that I just recited.
I do.
Okay.
Before you get started, Attorney Dempsey, so if you hold an event there, we'll say like a wedding, and we're saying 160 is max in there, do you foresee it flowing into the restaurant and outside? And actually, I mean, if you have a call for 250 people at this wedding or graduation party or whatever it may be, do you foresee it being able to spill into your garden area, your patio area and everything?
Not to the extent where you double or triple the amount of people, no.
What would you say the extent would be?
I think whatever could fit inside would be the same as what you could fit outside, not in a doubling way, just have that as some space if someone wants to step outside.
So what I'm saying is if you're, we'll say, I'll say ballroom for a better choice of words if you're having a wedding, you put 160 people in there, and someone wants to come and book and they have 250 and they're willing to use the patio area and everything like that, is that something that you plan on leasing out for wedding or events that could tie into one large social gathering?
I mean, we'd have to look at capacity, but I think that would be too many people.
Okay. Thank you. We're good.
Thank you. Sir, may I ask you a couple quick questions about your drawings? I'm looking at Washington Avenue northbound 1, if you'd be kind enough to just look at that briefly. Oh, right there. Okay, thank you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you had testified that the North Washington Avenue Street would be an exit. Am I correct in that I heard that right?
Exit only, yeah.
Exit only. Okay, so I'm looking at North Avenue northbound 1 photo, which shows the front of the restaurant with a big sign, correct? That says Scranton Commons Restaurant?
This is an image in terms of what we think might happen. It's not set in stone.
Okay. And I'm also looking at an image showing people, multiple people walking in that front door. Is that accurate?
They could be walking in or out.
It looks like they're walking in, I think, if you look a little closer. Would you like to? You don't know?
I think it's open to interpretation.
It's open. That's very fair.
Right. But I think the
Just speak into the microphone, sir. Back to the microphone.
But the intent in terms of that entrance is that it be exit only.
Thank you. I'm also looking at page 1. I don't know how to otherwise describe it. It says it has another little line in the corner. Oh, actually there it is up there, right up top. Now that is a large bar with about, I'm saying 10, maybe 12 seats. Beautiful, but large. Where's that going to be? Because you just showed us a small 4-seater in the corner.
Sure. When we do initial preliminary conceptual design, we often help our clients envision the feel and character of a space. Mm-hmm. So this is an inspirational image from another location.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Attorney Maloney? Yeah. Attorney Maloney, anything? No. Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who would like to give testimony in this case?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we just need to go to the podium, though. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Maloney. Oh, sure. Sorry. All right. My name is Samantha Maloney, and what I've submitted to you as part of the record is a binder full of public record articles, newspaper articles from all sorts of different states, all sorts of different people, as well as a memorandum in opposition to the variance request by Britt Corps for mixed-use variance for 1800 North Washington. What is in the binder, some of it is quoted here, but there's extra articles within the binder as well. I only made copy of one binder. I'm so sorry. I meant to make more, but I have 4 children, and I'm pretty much a stay-at-home mom at this point in time, so this was the best I could do, but I can make more copies should the zoning board like. To begin, I'm part of the Green Ridge Revitalization Committee. It resulted from a presentation by Lance Robbins regarding 9 properties located at the former Scranton School for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing, which was purchased by Marywood. The GRC's mission was adopted in July, and it's to assist stakeholders in assuring a safe, useful, and sustainable transformation of the Green Ridge community while maintaining its historical integrity. We're hopeful that the development of the 9 properties will become beautiful and a historic addition to our neighborhood. That being said, our first request is a request for a continuance. We request this continuance in pursuant to City Code 445, Section 445-12A3B. Notice should be delivered and mailed. I'm going to skip a little bit, go to the emphasized area. To the president of an appropriate official city-recognized neighborhood association, the last known address of owners of record of property abutting directly across the street. Specifically, the developer was aware and introduced to the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association, which is different than us, on February 2018 at the public meeting at Marywood. President Mark Seitzinger noted his concerns for traffic and parking at the public meeting, and a response was promised. The president also is on record in regards to his question, and I included that article from the PA homepage, developer interested in the former Scranton School property. The president has stated on behalf of the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association that they did not receive notice. Similarly, although we are not a state, I'm sorry, not a city
Excuse me one
recognized-
second. Could you pull that microphone down? Some people in the audience cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'll slow down. So previously, as I stated, the president of the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association has stated that they were not served notice. That similarly, our Green Ridge Revitalization Committee was also not served notice. I am aware that we are not a city-recognized neighborhood, but the developer, through his associate Aaron, I may mispronounce his name, Iskowitz, was aware of our committee. On August 10th, 2018, I provided the group's mission as well as requests for different studies and also an offer of how we could help. At that, and so I'm here on behalf of them that we did not receive notice. So that is the first request. I'm going to skip to the third request, and Mrs. Dempsey will discuss the second request. Our third request is that if the variance is granted, we would request conditions placed upon it. Pursuant to City Code 445-11E3E, which states, the board may attach such reasonable conditions and safeguards as it may deem necessary to implement the purpose of this chapter and protect the public health and safety. Due to the developer's past history, current issues with development projects, and combined with the developer's failure to have the properties considered a whole during the zoning process, we do not want to see any part of it abandoned. We do not want to see any part of this abandoned. That includes the Dunmore site. And I know that there are representatives, citizens of Dunmore, of the borough, here tonight in support of this request. First, the GRC, the Green Ridge Revitalization Committee, that also has members from Dunmore on it, will proffer evidence of the developer's untrustworthiness, specifically that the developer has had 105 health and building code violations, 7 criminal charges for building code violations.
Excuse me, we're going to object to this. This has no relevance to this evening. What they're talking about is an individual, and basically we're here this evening on behalf of an entity that has an option agreement with Marywood University. Now, the other problem that we have with this, of course, is the slanderous material which is being offered to you without any substantiation whatsoever. Did you get it off the internet? How reliable is that? Where does this come from? Where's the documentation to support any of this slanderous statements about the gentleman who is in essence in charge of this project? We're going to have to sit here and listen to this? We object.
I'm going to sustain the objection. I don't think it's relevant
Thank you.
to the project.
Hearsay is admissible, correct? Correct?
No.
I spoke with Lauren Sanders, who is the Associate Director of the National Consumer Law Center in Washington, D.C. If I can proffer what she said to me.
Excuse me.
I think what we have to concentrate on is the project and not the person.
Sure.
Because this developer gets conveyed to another developer just as easily, and we're dealing with a whole separate set of facts. The developer or the personal life or the history of the developer is not relevant to this project. We want to concentrate on what this project is.
Brick Investment Corp. and the developer. Within that binder, there is a complaint pursued against fraud by Frank Gramwell, and he was awarded $29 million.
Again,
You're going to have to stop your testimony, all right? Our solicitor ruled on it, and that's the ruling that we go by, so.
I'll go back to the abandoned buildings then. Obviously, abandoned buildings increase rodents and crime, and such the variance should be contingent on a full completion of 9-building project. Especially since, as we heard today, there is a substantial lack of planning. Questions by both the attorney Pentar and Gattens brought this to light. I'm also, the project and the development of all 9 buildings must be considered as a whole to ensure that none of the buildings are abandoned. The developer has stated to us that the 9 buildings should be repaired and ready for use within 2.5 years. An example of a condition that we would request would be, and is not limited to, the completion and operational use of all 9 buildings within 2 years and 6 months from the date of this decision, or this decision shall expire. The variance shall be considered void, and the property shall revert back to the original zoning of institutional. Furthermore, the sale of any of the 9 buildings prior to the completion of operational use of all 9 buildings will cause the decision to expire, and the variance shall be considered void, and the property shall revert back to its original zoning of institutional. Therefore, one piece of the property, such as the Scranton piece, can't be sold, while the remaining 8 remain abandoned. Conditions can include, but not limited to, complete with operational use of all 9 buildings as mentioned, receive approval after public notice from Dunmore and Scranton fire chiefs concerning the fire and safety plan, including but not limited to inspection of the wiring and determination of sprinklers of all 9 buildings. 3, to receive approval after public notice from Dunmore and Scranton Engineering regarding stormwater runoff. 4, due to the emergency routes stated, especially in light of the proximity to St. Joseph's, seek at least an informal review by PennDOT or any proposed access on North Washington and Jefferson. Determine whether any permits or approvals, number 5, determine whether or not any permits or approvals are needed from any agency outside the city, including the Pennsylvania DEP, including the obstruction or reduction in permeability to the waterway. Meadowbrook Creek runs through there. For those of you that may not be familiar with Meadowbrook Creek, that is the creek that is opening up the holes into the family's backyards on Wyoming Avenue. Number 6, receive approval by the Planning Commission of both Scranton and Dunmore. Number 7, to receive all necessary variances from Dunmore Borough. My understanding is that Dunmore Borough has not been addressed at all. Number 8, receive any and all permits from both Scranton and Dunmore for work on all 9 buildings. Receive all applicable liquor licenses. Number 10, register for all rental properties. Number 11, provide prompt payment of all taxes during the 2 years and 6 months period. Number 12, abide by all provisions of the Scranton Zoning Ordinance, Article 5, and Section 11 regarding lighting and glare control. Number 13, abide by all provisions of the City Scranton Zoning Ordinance, Article 7, dealing with signage, lighting, and illuminations. Number 14, abide by provisions of the Scranton Zoning Ordinance, Article 5, Section 515, and Section 804, dealing with the buffer zones related to parking lots and planting strips related to the parking lot. Abide by provisions of the City Scranton Zoning Ordinance, Article 5, Section 508, dealing with noise. Number 16, mandate an independent traffic study to be completed within 30 days. And number 17, as mentioned by the board, receive and request any and all variances for apartments as needed. These buildings, all 9 of them, should be considered as a whole before this variance is granted. These conditions could help ensure that nothing, not the Dunmore side, not the Scranton side, that none of it's just left behind. An additional note, was this entered into the record? The exhibits displayed by the applicant?
We accepted them. Okay.
I'd like you to take a look at Building 6, because it is part of the record. It does state a second restaurant location with alcohol. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, one of your requests there, as far as if they don't complete the work in a certain period of time, that their variance is withdrawn, is one of the requests you're looking for. They have the right, as anyone that comes before this board, to come back and ask for an extension at that point there. Because, and I'm not saying just this, I don't care if it's someone remodeling their house, there are times that they do run the problems, stuff like that. So whether it's this group or any group does have the right to come back before us and request an extension.
We understand that.
Thank you.
Good evening again. If you can bear with me, 5 to 8 minutes, I'll be finished, I promise. I want to thank everybody. Mr. Sweeney, you were very kind to me when I requested documents. Thank you. Mr. Penatar, you as well, and my dealings with you. The board, I want to let you know how much we appreciate your time here tonight. We're only here because we care, and I hope that's obvious to you.
Mr. Lavelle, of course, I have the utmost respect for you. You do with my father on a regular basis, and for your clients who testified here today. That having been said, before I begin to speak a little bit about the law that's applicable to this matter, if I may, we do have a peanut gallery here with us today. If anyone is here with Sam and I to support us in opposition to the variance request, would you please stand right now so that the board knows?
Or raise your
hand if you're already standing. This will give them an idea of how many people came out of their homes on this night and sat here for what was an already long hearing, I'm sure. This is a very important matter to all of us. I'll proceed. Thank you. You've heard a lot of testimony from both sides, and again, I thank you for your patience, but the one thing that we really haven't covered is the law. And specifically, a denial should be mandated in this case for a few reasons. Number one, the applicant has absolutely shown no unique hardship to this property, okay? I am going to speak in a little while about the adverse effect on the public health, safety, and general welfare that this project will have. And of course, I don't think I need to tell any of you who practically do this for a living that historically the minimal variance required is the one that should be granted. I think as an aside, I'd also like to say many of you might not know this about me. I know Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Penatar do. I also live at 1809 North Washington Avenue. If you are standing at the entrance, the egress and ingress, my house is literally smack dab across the street. It's the yellow Colonial. And, you know, to say I have standing here would be an understatement, to be quite frank from you. So I'll also discuss a little bit of my personal observations after I discuss the law. Again, we all know that we're only here today talking about the one building that's in Scranton, but I do believe Sam's concerns should be well taken. If the one building is not somewhat considered in conjunction with an entire project, we do share some concern that a few things can happen here. Number one, the cost for this entire property is not extreme considering what the person is getting, the developer. And I'm actually really sorry he didn't show up here tonight, to be very candid with you, and I'm not being sarcastic. I don't think there's anything to prevent this gentleman from getting a liquor license and perhaps trying to bifurcate the property, perhaps subdivide the property, okay? Perhaps sell off that front building and make back his money and let the 7 other buildings go into a state of disrepair, as Sam has indicated already. That is a concern of the neighborhood. Right now, that is zoned 1 NSL, which historically has been social, educational, health, and recreational needs. Quite frankly, that's what we're used to. We called it the oral school, the state school for the deaf. They couldn't have been a better neighbor. I bought that house knowing the oral school was right across the street from me. I knew I was buying into a neighborhood where there was a school. Many of those students dormed there, okay? Many of those students bused there. We did not have a lot of traffic in and out of there every day. By way of history, in terms of our neighborhood and how we take care of each other, and this will be brief because I do want to finish this night off as quickly as I can. When my husband passed away 8 years ago, the first 2 people at my door were the chefs from the oral school. I had never met them before. And they showed up with home-baked banana bread and told me that we could use that institution as much as we needed in terms of parking and access. We are good neighbors to each other. We try to be. We're trying to protect that history now. Marywood took over the property. Marywood did a great job with the property. I know Mr. Red McAnder personally, and I would see him down there working on that property all day. I have no complaints against Marywood. My son is a graduate of Marywood. My brother is a graduate of Marywood. I want people to know this is not anything personal and this is not anything political. Now, getting back to the law, very briefly. The Municipal Planning Code, 53 PS 10101, it's in the documents that Sam has already provided to you, says that there must be unique physical circumstances or conditions. irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, etc. I don't want to have to read this all now because I can tell people are getting tired. I don't believe that's been met. Number 2, the physical conditions or circumstances have to show that there is no possibility that that can be developed for another purpose. They have not met that burden of proof. I haven't said it yet, and shame on me. The burden of proof is on Mr. Lavelle tonight. It's not on us. We're here to cross-examine and make a point. It's their burden of proof to prove an undue hardship to qualify for this variance. They have not done that. Number 4, I'm going to speak to right now, that the variance, if authorized and granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or the district in which it's located, nor substantially or permanently impair the use of the adjacent properties. This is definitively going to alter the character of our neighborhood. Briefly, I walk out my door every day. I'm in and out 1,000 times a day. Ever since, it's been a busy street to begin with. Ever since Jefferson Avenue has been closed one way, I challenge any one of you to go, especially between 8 and 9 and 4 and 5. You'll see for yourself. Traffic from the North Washington / Electric Street Light is backed up to St. Clair's School 4 blocks away. I might also mention we talked about the ingress and egress for the Scranton Commons primarily being on North Washington Avenue. Please keep in mind this is a designated emergency route for St. Joseph Center, our protected children up there. Marywood College, our students, who parents pay a lot of money to send from other states. The Little Sisters of the Poor. Park Gardens were our elderly residents. North Washington Avenue is an important route of access. We have one case in here, it's a Supreme Court case. Again, I'm not going to cite it for time, noting the reasons for granting a variance must be substantial, serious, and compelling. I didn't hear anything substantial, serious, or compelling. And there's also case law in our brief, and I will not repeat it now, that says just because it will make the property more appealing economically is not a good enough reason. Okay, I'm going to close on what is my most passionate argument, at least to me. A person who grew up there. I lived 1 block away my whole life and then bought my house 23 years ago. So to say I've been there, my life is not an understatement. I want you to know this neighborhood is generational, okay? We go away maybe for professional schools and we come back, but our kids raise our kids there. Grandkids live blocks away. We take care of each other and we know each other. And that's how we want to keep it. I am concerned about safety at that ingress and egress. A couple years ago, we had a young child hit on the intersection of Electric Street and North Washington Avenue. You have to remember, kids walk to St. Clair's School every day past that exact area. And I know, I mean, God bless them if they have their weddings, there's going to be people parked in front of my house. And I don't know if Mr. George Reiner is here, but him and I had this conversation. Getting out of our driveways to get to work at 8 in the morning is impossible. I actually go out at 9 at night and I back my car in every night. Well, the nights I remember, so that I can pull out in the morning. Otherwise, it's like taking your life in your hands. The other issue is left-hand turns. Let me bring up one quick meeting, and Mr. Lavelle, you weren't at this, but the developer did reach out to us last Friday, and we did have a conference call with him that did last about an hour and a half. And one of my questions to him, similarly to Sam's conditions, that if the variance is granted, we would certainly almost request conditions of many sorts. I said, did you ever think of making the North Washington Avenue entrance one way, and then they have to exit out the other way? And the exact words were, we never thought of that. And I thought, that one thing in and of itself would make such a tremendous difference to us in the neighborhood and to the safety of our children. So again, I'll just conclude. At least from what I've heard today, the developer has failed to establish that the property at 1800 North Washington Avenue has any type of unique hardship that is going to warrant the grant of a variance. He was not able to prove, nor was any evidence put into the record, and it's their burden of proof, that there was no adverse effect on public health, safety, or general welfare. Whereas I hope you at least listen to some of my passionate plea as a resident who's lived there for 23 years. And again, I just repeat that the minimum variance granted is the one that should be. One more time back to the kids in the neighborhood. I mentioned Marywood, I mentioned our protected children at St. Joe's. North Washington Avenue is how you get to our Little League. North Washington Avenue is how you get to St. Clair's School. It's how you get to Marywood School. It's how you get to Little Sisters. It is, to say it is a main thoroughfare in Greenridge or in the city would be an absolute understatement. And we want to make sure that we continue to protect people who live there. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Of course.
If you don't mind. What would you rather see in that building that we would grant a variance for? I mean, because what you're saying, if I'm interpreting right, what you're saying is basically no variance should be given to that building.
Well, no, I think that's incorrect. And not to, we have discussed with the developer, and I think you'll see it in the materials that we've submitted. We are not opposed to development of that building. And quite frankly, if a dialogue could be entered into with whether it be, you know, whoever, with conditional variances that are taken care of and finalized because of some of the track record issues that we were not allowed to get into, that's what, you know, now there's a variety of other uses I can envision. I mean, a school, a senior home, a community center. I mean, Southside has a community center, Dunmore has a community center, Kaiser Valley has a community center, Greenwich doesn't have a community center, you know? We don't. I'm not being facetious.
No, I know. I agree.
Yeah, we really don't. So there are uses for it. You know, if you're asking me personally, I would like to see the best use of that property that conforms to the aesthetic of the neighborhood and that protects the neighborhood.
I'm not saying this is the best use for the property. I'm not testifying on their behalf or anything like that, but I think in that building, no matter what goes in there, there's going to be people opposed to it. Because even a community center, you have traffic. I mean, even a school, you're going to have traffic. So I understand your concerns on some of them. I don't agree with them all. I do agree with some of them.
Fair enough.
But what I'm saying is I'm hoping the developer and the neighbors can come to a middle-of-the-road agreement on this someplace. It doesn't seem like it's there yet. I mean, because I just offer my personal opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or anything like that. I mean, it seems like a good project, but I have some questions, and I'm going to roll it out right now. I might as well say it. I'm disappointed we don't have a traffic study before us. I'm very disappointed we don't have a traffic study, that this board does not have a traffic study to look at. We don't. What I'm saying is it should have been given to us with your packet to take a look at. And no different than we're going to have a case sometime tonight looking for a variance for parking in the yard. We want to see the information beforehand. We don't want to come into a meeting blind, especially a meeting of this scope. And I'm just, again, speaking for myself, I'm just disappointed that we don't have a traffic study to look at here, considering that you have it.
And I'd like the opportunity to cross-examine on that if it comes in. Mr. Gaddens, are there any more questions for me?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
There is a traffic study. I had no idea that we needed it beforehand. I thought it was just for planning, to be perfectly honest with you. And I just don't have, I don't know if I have authority to submit it to them. So I haven't submitted to you.
I mean, it seems like, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that would be on board with this project if you guys can get together. I know you guys want us to vote on this tonight, but it seems like if you guys were to all get together and try to come up with a solution here that everybody can be happy with, I think there's a lot of questions that are left open.
The organization to discuss it further. We will.
You got me?
My personal thought is Attorney Malone listed a number of conditions. And I think that's kind of your middle of the road. How many of those conditions can you provide? Because, and I know this board, and this board is looking to protect the neighbors. On the same token, they don't want to squash a project that needs to be done, but we got to have some kind of middle of the road, and I think Attorney Malone's conditions was a good start to talk it through. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the board, but
I think you're absolutely right. I think something could be worked out.
I mean, we'd be foolish to think you're going to agree to every condition in here, and I'm sure they feel the same way. They know not 100% of these are going to be met or agreed to, but I just feel that if we can get both parties together and then come back to this table, it'd be better off for everyone concerned.
I think there was one.
My assurance as to the objectives that I will attempt to facilitate it. I will.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
You have my assurance and the objectives. They have my assurance that I will attempt to facilitate that. A meeting which is directly attempting to see if we can agree to all of these, any or all of these objections, any or all of these conditions.
So are you willing to facilitate that by tabling this tonight and coming back next month and having that meeting in that 30-day span?
Yes, we are.
So do you want to ask for a motion that we table this and come back next month?
Attorney Dempsey, do you have any objection to that? Okay, and that's what I'm asking, that it be tabled and that we come back next month.
We'll take a vote on that.
I'd make a motion to table.
Second.
Mr. Walsh?
I just hope we can all get together and work this out, and we can maybe come to a solution.
Thank you.
I vote yes to table it.
Mr. Morris?
I vote yes to table it.
Ms. Patel?
Yes, I thought it did.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Chairman Gattens?
And I'll reiterate what Mr. Walsh said. It's a good project, and I'd be lying if I sat here and said it's not a good project, and it's development that's needed in our city, and I'm sure as well as Dunmore, if there's people here from Dunmore. But I think a middle of the ground needs to be met, and I think the opportunity is there to meet it. I don't think this group that came out tonight is against your project altogether. I don't consider a lot of their requests as troublesome or burdensome to the project, but just answers that need to be given out. So hopefully in that 30-day we can get this done and come back here next month and look at the project again. So I'm voting yes to table it.
Thank you.
By a vote of 5-0, the motion is carried, and this is tabled till next month.
Thank you, everyone.
That would be November 14th.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Agenda item number 3, 1730 Dixon Avenue.
Good evening. My name is Patrick McLean.
Hang on. Are you an attorney?
I'm a civil engineer.
Okay, so we're going to swear you in first before we get started. Any attorneys at that table? Yes. Okay, so you're good. If you come up for testimony, we'll swear you in at that point there. All right, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name, address, and spell your last name.
Patrick McLean, M-C-L-A-I-N-E. I live at 211 West Street, Elmhurst Township, Pennsylvania.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I'm a civil engineer. I'm a consulting engineer with Ruther Bowen, based out of Dunmore, Pennsylvania. I'm here representing QSP Development, LLC, with proposed building located at 1730 Dixon Avenue. The building will be a senior living center for 55 years and older. It'll actually be for 62 and older. I use the 55 and older because that's referenced in your ordinance multiple times. There'll be approximately 30 units. It will be 3 stories tall. There will be community space. There will be a nurse's station, all geared towards senior residents from, probably most of them will be from our community. There are a number of variances that we require. It is currently zoned IL. It's surrounded on 3 sides by residential, single family and multifamily residential. Number 1 variance is a use variance, the IL zone. We request a variance to allow mid-rise apartment building in the IL zone. We request a variance from the maximum setback from a residential lot line. Required is 30 feet. We request a variance of 10, or a relief of 20. What we do propose is to meet all other buffer requirements for the residential lot line. We request a variance from maximum building height. The maximum height required is 40 feet or 5 stories. We're proposing 50 feet height, but only 3 stories tall. Basically, the roof is pretty tall. So the top of the eave of the 3rd floor is less than 30 feet tall. So it's approximately 20-foot tall sloping roof. We also request a variance for minimum lot area per dwelling unit. Ordinance requires 2,000 square feet based on 30 units divided by our property size, which is 1¼ acres. Our area per dwelling unit would be about 1,800 square feet. And lastly, we request a variance for parking stalls required. 33 are required. That's based on the residential as well as the community space. We request a variance, a relief of 3, so we're proposed to provide 30 stalls. This is the first stage in the project. We will definitely go through all sections of the Scranton ordinance, including the land development and subdivision requirements. We'll make all submissions in front of the Scranton Planning Commission and Scranton Council. All building permits will be applied for and acquired before starting construction. At this point, I'd like to bring up Greg Quandell, who would like to talk a little bit more about the project.
I'm sorry, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Could you state your name and address, and please spell your last name?
Gregory Quandel, Q-U-A-N-D-E-L, 245 Carbon Street, Minersville, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing us to appear before the board tonight. I'm here representing QSP Partnership and Quandel Construction, who is going to be the proposed builder of the project. We are a community partner. We have completed over $700 million worth of work in Scranton and in the greater Scranton area. Notable projects: University of Scranton, Medical College, Scranton School District, and for tax credit income housing, most notably Scranton North High School we completed. We have a full service office in Scranton, so we're local. We have 22 full-time employees. A little background of the job, it's going to be between a $10 to $12 million project for the community. It's going to employ 60 to 80 tradesmen over an approximate 12-month period at a prevailing wage project. It's going to be a perfect job for the community, great wages, and we're supporting the community. We're glad to be a participating partner. At this time, I'd like to bring Craig Shields up to give a little more information regarding the program itself on the housing project. Thank you.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address, and please spell your last name.
Craig Shields, S-H-I-E-L-D-S, 5 South 15th Street, Pottsville, PA. And the QSP stands for Quandell Shields Properties. My partner is Buddy Quandell, who actually has offices here in Scranton. My main job is I develop low-income housing tax credits. This project would be 62-plus senior housing, and when I stress 62-plus, you have to be 62 years and above to get in this. There's no other way around this. Some people say that people get in under that age. That is not true. You got to be 62-plus. There will be 27 one-bedroom units and 3 two-bedroom units. The rents would be restricted because it's a low-income housing tax credit project. Now, part of this process, we have to get approval from you guys. The next step would, we have to apply to Pennsylvania Housing Finance in November for them to decide we compete against other projects across the state. They would not make their decision until about June of next year. And at that time, if they award us the tax credits, we would go in motion, and probably the fall of next year, we would start construction. These units, as everybody can see here, it's a vacant lot out there, and these units are beautiful. There's a senior center in there that we're going to partnership with Geisinger Springboard, which comes in and teaches the elderly the correct food to eat, all kinds of services for the elderly. It's also then would be available for anybody in the community that are senior age to benefit from this project. So I know some of the neighbors might have concerns. This is probably the 7th one that I built, and every one of them, we had people in the audience that wanted to know about what we do and how we build them. I guarantee you this would be one of the nicest buildings you would see in Scranton, okay? In the past, we're 100% 7 for 7 on building these. I believe in paying it forward. I also believe in working with the community to make this an outstanding facility. So that's all I got to say at this time, unless you guys got any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's 62 and above.
Correct.
Years of age. So if I was to move in there and I had grandchildren that I was raising, are they eligible to move into that apartment
Grandchildren,
complex?
no. They can come visit, but they can't live with you.
So there's no
way around that
acceptance.
rule. That rule is set by PHFA, and basically when we get the tax credits, we sell the tax credits, so either a local bank or somebody else would buy the tax credits. There's a thing there, I don't know if anybody knows, you see your banks giving out checks in the paper, different amounts. By law, the banks are required that under the Community Reinvestment Act. So basically, we're selling the tax credits to the banks. They take that off their corporate taxes. They give us the money to build these. They also income restricted, so the rents for like a 2-bedroom apartment here, with everything included, will be about $650. And on the average, the smallest apartment's about 800 square feet to about 1,200 square feet.
So the projects that you've completed so far, do you still own them? Are you?
We there's a limited partnership would own them, and we have to keep it under this type of arrangement for 35 years.
Okay. I just have some questions on the setbacks. I don't know if maybe the engineer can come back up and we'll talk to him.
Thank you.
Unless there's anyone else have any questions before we do that? I'm looking at your map that you provided to us. What is the setbacks on the side from the edge of the property?
5 feet required. So right now we're indicating approximately 12 on one side and 16 on the other.
from side, like left to right?
Correct.
Okay. And how about in the rear of the property?
The rear property requirement is 10 feet. Now, those are their general standard building setback requirements. There is a separate setback requirement, and maybe this is what you're getting at, from a residential use, which is 30 feet.
No, no, I'm fine with your answer.
Okay.
I just want to be sure if I'm reading it right. And your entrance is off the front,
Correct, off of Dixon Ave.
and it goes down the right side of the building, looking at the building?
Right now, the intent is to have two-way direction of traffic, but it's wide, there's enough space there to make it two-way.
Is that correct? Jack, is there enough on that one side, 16 feet?
Yeah.
Because even with the buffer in there?
Buffer, yeah.
So if we put a 4-foot buffer at 12 feet,
4 foot, yeah,
is good for two lanes of traffic?
Let me think about this. No, that's not good. That's,
Right now, from the two driveways shown here, which can move, they can both move away from the
Right.
property lines. There's no reason they can't move in even farther away. It just seemed to work out that way as we presented it.
I just want to make sure your driveway is wide enough, you know, as far as our ordinance in this.
I think they're shown as at 24 foot wide here. Your ordinance either requires 20 or 22, maybe 24.
Yeah, I see you're close to a lot of residential housing. What kind of buffering were you going to provide the neighbors there in the area as far as blocking their view of your project?
Well, the ordinance requires, there's a specific landscape requirement, which is and I can't quote exactly, but I believe it's a 6 foot wide minimum evergreen vegetation they have a certain height requirement at planting time. I forget the exact definition, but we'll provide a minimum of that, at a minimum. A fence could possibly be considered. There's, I don't think there's any reason we wouldn't do whatever was requested by the neighborhood, by the board.
Same thing with lighting, you'll make sure that the lighting doesn't reflect into their properties, because the properties are close at this point here. In the rear, on Sanderson Avenue side, their backyards are, you know, basically abut this project, as well as on the right-hand side of your project there.
Absolutely, and on the lighting will be required as part of the land development submission to meet requirements of the ordinance, and we'll have to provide a photometrics, which will show that a certain minimum number of foot candles leave the property line.
but I don't have a width. What is the width of the driveway area? This map doesn't show.
It really, there's a lot of, it'll be the minimum required. So if Scranton requires 24, we'll do 24. I think 20 is
20.
too narrow.
Yeah, our ordinance does require only 20.
I would say 24 in and out. I think that's a little bit easier for people.
Eight-foot buffer. Right.
Any questions? Other questions? Is there anyone else here to give testimony to this? Please come up. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name.
Roberta Jadick, Jadick, 1757 Muncie Avenue, Scranton.
You can proceed.
My concern is with the area and what is already there. The Center for Independent Living, as well as Monticello School, which is a program-based unit of the Scranton School District, is located directly across the street. In Monticello, there are children who come from St. Joseph's Center homes, group homes, that are in wheelchairs. There are children with autism. There are children with emotional support issues, ranging from kindergarten through 20 2 years of age. There are buses in and out of that building in the morning and in the afternoon. And because of the size of the parking lot for Monticello, those buses are lined up on the street. In the summer, that's not going to be an issue. But during the school year, at 8 o'clock in the morning until 8:50, and then from 2:10 until 3 in the afternoon, that will be an issue. May not seem like a big one, but when you're dealing with children with those disadvantages, it's certainly something that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
About the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Yvonne Xanthis, Xanthis. I own the property at 1712 Dixon Avenue. It's adjacent to the parking lot. I am on the right side. I see so many problems with this project. For one, we have school buses, at least 50 in an hour every morning. We have school buses, we have vans. The street is packed. We have children that are walking that don't take the bus. This is a very dangerous situation. Mr. Sweeney was down there. He saw what it's like. It's extremely busy. I don't see we're adding more cars. We have an apartment house to my left. I can see it. It's 114 apartments. We have the 2 schools there, and now we're going to put something else there that's going to add to the traffic. The traffic is atrocious. You can't even I can't get on my driveway. People park in front of my driveway there because there's no place to park these buses. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
My name is Paul Walsh, W-A-L-S-H, and I live at 1731 Sanderson Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania. My property is their building will be directly behind my property. My family and I have an in-ground pool. According to their map, this 50-foot high building will be 11 feet off of my property. There will be no arborvitae fence that they could supply to bring the sunlight I'm going to lose after 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which the time is we come home from work. So right there, plus I echo the first woman's statement about the school. It's a heavily trafficked, Dixon Avenue is very narrow, heavily trafficked street, very dangerous, almost impassable when school lets out. Now you're adding 33 more cars, 33 more people coming in and out, plus they're seniors. So it's a danger to the children and a danger to the neighborhood. You can't see how in a residential area you could put up, even though it's zoned differently adjacent to my property, you could put up such a high building so close to our property lines. It's a privacy issue. There's no way that we can have any privacy in our pool anymore. Our family, my friends, there's just no way we'll be able to be back there without all these senior citizens sitting on their porch looking out their windows at us. So I hope that you can take that into consideration.
So guys, what's your opinion on you guys being so high and looking directly into his pool?
So as I mentioned earlier, so this drawing, which was not presented to the board, but I do have copies I could give to the board and as well as members of the audience if they're interested, shows the elevations. The top, which would be the eave of the below the roof, is approximately 29 feet above ground. So the roof is about almost 20 feet tall. And another issue, Dixon Avenue is approximately somewhere between 5 and 10 feet lower than Sanderson Avenue. So those two things alone, I think, will help alleviate some of the concerns. I believe most houses in the area are 3 stories as well. So besides the roof being really tall, which might be a condition in a lot of houses as well, I'd like to think it fits in the neighborhood in terms of height-wise. I hope that answers some of the questions.
I just have a question on one of the numbers. You just said from the ground to the roof, the edge of that eave there, you're saying it's 20 foot?
About 30 feet. I'm sorry if I said 20.
Okay, I was going to say, if 3 stories, there's no way
Yeah.
20 feet.
I'm sorry if I misspoke. It is about 30.
Okay, thank you. You come back up to the podium, please.
The statement he just made about the 10-foot drop-off actually doesn't help him and hinders him. Our property is 10 foot higher, so he's saying the 10-foot property, he made it seem like there's a difference their way. It's actually a difference our way. So the 10 foot down plus the 30 feet, now you're at 40 feet. And then you go another additional, what'd you say, 20 feet, makes it 50. It would actually be 60 feet with the 10-foot difference. So what you're saying is the complete opposite of the actuality.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the topographic survey that has contours on it, and I could show you the elevations that were provided by the surveyor. So
We're going to need you to use that microphone there while you do that, please. You can hold that one that's there. Yeah, thank you.
And maybe I'm confused, but I believe Dixon is lower than Sanderson. Is that?
Dixon is 10 foot lower.
Okay.
So your building's going to start 10 foot lower. Mm-hmm. So now your height, with me being up this way, it's still going to affect it.
We're still putting a 3-story building with a 50-foot height of roof. You're absolutely right. We're requesting we put a building of that. You're absolutely right.
Why does it have to be so close? Is there any, can you move the parking lot to the rear of the property and bring it closer to Dixon Avenue? Why does it have to be 10 feet off all of our properties?
That is not something that we considered. I don't have a good answer for you on that one.
I mean, 10 feet is super tight for residential area backyards for a building that height.
If we, the parking lot in the back is not even something we looked at, but it really, I don't know, it still wouldn't, it doesn't affect the variances we're applying for, even if we did because of the side yard.
Well,
So.
would you, I mean, is that something that would go into consideration? I think it affects the variance if you already have plans for it.
Well, because the variance applies to all 3 side yards, or all 3 yards, the back and the 2 sides as well. So we'd still need a 30-foot, or relief from the 30-foot buffer on the residential use lot line. I don't. Me pulling up the topographic map doesn't help solve our disagreement. Okay.
No.
I think what Mr. Walsh is asking, can you move the building forward toward Dixon and have half the parking on the Dixon side and half the parking into the rear on where Mr. Walsh's side is? I think that's what you were. Right.
Just to comment on that, your house is in like the right-hand corner here, correct? Like 10 feet, you're the closest one. Over in this end?
No. My property would be right here.
The property's right here, or across the street.
No, I'm right here.
No,
So according to this map here,
wait a minute, how can you be in front of, that's a street in front of us, you're backwards. All right.
I'm on 7th.
All right, we're going this way,
Yeah, you're
okay.
back. The school is here.
All right,
So I'm right here. So according to this map, you are 11 feet off
Right.
of my property line with that building. I have an in-ground pool right here.
well, I could guarantee you we could put a row of trees in there, whatever height you like, that cover that, also.
I mean, there's no tree that's gonna go that high.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you realize how high you're saying your building's gonna be? Now, you're 10 feet off of my property.
Callaway pear
So-
tree will grow 30 feet in.
You're gonna put a pear tree behind my house? 30-foot pear tree?
We'll put whatever tree is necessary to help you.
That's ridiculous.
Okay, I mean, that's your opinion, and as
And
far.
where are you gonna put the tree? So you have 10 feet here, so you're going to put it in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
So there won't be any access to any throughway behind your building?
Well, there'll still
for
be some
residents.
walkway. Okay, and just trying to address the parking too. Most of the elderly in this building, probably only half of them will have cars. Most of the cars that would be coming in there would be people visiting the residents. That's the most part. Most of the elderly people that live here don't have cars.
How do you know that?
Because I've been doing this for 35 years.
So you're guessing that they won't drive?
Gentlemen, let's
Okay.
restrict our testimony to up here. All
Okay,
right?
sorry.
Please.
Sorry. I mean, we're here to work with everybody. I mean, I think we build nice properties, and we're not here to get in arguments with the neighborhoods. We want to work with the neighborhood.
I'm sure it's a beautiful property, but the guy has a pretty, I mean, if I had a pool in my backyard and there's a big building staring at me, I wouldn't be happy either. I mean, so what he's asking is, could you reverse the parking lot to the rear building towards the front?
I mean, that's a possibility, but I think in the end, you guys would be sorry that the parking lot's in the back versus the front. Excuse me, sir?
How about, can you move the building to the middle, leave half the parking on Dixon and half the parking in the rear? That would alleviate one of your variance requests for the 30 feet in the rear then.
I mean, it's, go ahead, sorry.
And I'm not sure exactly how it would work, but we still would require a variance from the 30-foot residential setback because we have on two sides. Well, the one side
Right,
got an
okay,
alley.
yeah, on two of the sides, yes, but that alleviates one of them, one of the sides.
Yes.
I mean, yes, it's possible. We have not looked at that option regarding building placement, stormwater runoff, but we feel the current position of the building is at optimal, at its optimal point for maximum use of beautification of the property and keeping the parking lot up front. I mean, but the option is we can look at that if necessary.
Yeah, because I'm looking at not only Mr. Walsh's property, but the property that's labeled Todd and Kimberly Spinozzi, it looks like. They're the two most affected properties by having the building in the rear.
Yeah. And as Craig had noted, I mean, we can put up privacy screens, whether, you know, on means of trees, shrubbery, that's as required by land development.
Okay.
Does anyone else have testimony to offer?
There's more people who want to talk.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
My name is Harry Jadick, J-A-D-I-C-K. I live at 1757 Muncie Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
A big part of my concern is in the operations of this facility. It's a 62-plus facility. Am I to assume that the tenants are going to be responsible for making their own meals? Yes, they are. Okay. And in what manner would those tenants get to the store to get their food?
First of all, people that are in their 62-plus all can be able to live by themselves. And be right, they're not, it's not a nursing home.
So then you're saying that it's most viable then that the tenants will have a vehicle?
Some will.
That wasn't my question, sir. I said, is it viable that most of them will?
I would say half from experience.
Okay, sir. And in light of that then, you mentioned visitors coming and going, okay? How many employees do you expect to have on hand there? 4, which will need parking as well, correct? Okay. being of that age, I am sure that there will be a multitude of outside medical services coming in that will require parking spots as well to serve the tenants of your facility.
I appreciate it, both of you.
Part of the requirements from the tax credit thing is we have to provide, supportive services, which exactly doing what you say. They help the tenants, doctor's appointments, going to grocery stores, that type of thing. And Geisinger Springboard is basically about teaching them how to eat and how to cook together. So they would come on site some hours and teach the tenants that type of services. So there'll be a service provider called Supportive Services, a manager and a maintenance guy in the building. That's all the employees that be in that building. But the supportive services is there to help the tenants go about their daily life, as you asked.
So there will be more than 2 of those supportive staff?
2 or 3, depending.
Or is it more dependent upon the type of tenants you take in?
And I don't understand what type of tenants you take. We take some of
Well,
these.
we're talking about those that would be less physically able or mentally able to take care of themselves, that would require training?
They basically can live on their own. That's just extra services we're providing.
That's just extra services?
That's correct. Now, I'm not exactly sure about the parking requirements here, but in the other buildings I did, for an elderly building, for every 2.5 apartments, we only have to supply 1 parking space. Is that correct? What is the code?
Ordinance requires 0.6 per apartment for 55.
So 62. So basically, we're going over and above the required number of parking spaces for our tenants. Those extra parking is for people to come and go also, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes. And you have a 5-year contract? I'm sorry, I forgot that one.
Go ahead. Go ahead. What was your question?
And you will be operating this facility for 5 years?
No.
No.
35 years you're required.
You're required for 35 years. You will have a contract with the owners of the facility?
We would be the owners.
You would be the owners?
That's correct.
You have no outside other owners?
Nope.
Supporting you?
It's
You are
me
building
and my partner, which is Buddy Quandell from Quandell Construction. Yes, we would be the owners.
Okay. All righty.
It's set up as a limited partnership. But no, we don't take it and sell it to somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The building will be owned, my name is Dermot Kennedy, by the way, I'm an attorney. And this is operated under Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code, and basically to generate the credits in addition to the application that Craig described, what we have to go through the process. It has to be owned by what they call as the conduit taxable entity, meaning that the tax benefits flow through to the individuals. And because this is a limited partnership, there will be a managing general partner, of which Craig and Greg and other of their associates will be managing that. There is an indenture of restrictive covenant between Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency and the partnership that obligates the partnership to continue to operate the project in the manner that these guys have described this evening for 35 years. And they will be the general partner for 35 years, and they will be the ones appointing whoever is employed by the project or employed by the partnership during that period of time. If we fail to operate in accordance with the requirements for 35 years, then there's an event of tax credit recapture for the investor, which obviously nobody wants to happen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear this testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
Mark Seitzinger, S-E-I-T-Z-I-N-G-E-R, 1112 Columbia Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509.
Proceed.
All right. Can I see your map real quick? All right, based on what I'm seeing and what I've heard so far with the proposed building, number one, where's the fire access for the rear of the building to have a fire truck with a ladder out there? Because based on this, there's not enough room to fit a fire truck with the ladder, with the outriggers and everything on there.
Could you go up and? As part of the land development process, we will meet with the fire chief and address all of his concerns. I can't answer your question right now, but that's something we have to get through.
Right, that was one thing that I saw that was there, and I understand the residents and their concerns about natural light and all that. You're talking basically 50-some feet, correct? Off the base of the ground to the peak of the roof. So I can understand where they're coming from. They've invested a lot in their properties to be able to put in pools, enjoy their backyards and whatnot. And I understand the developer's side of it as well in terms of putting up buffers and trees. But the trees, even if they're that high or any kind of buffer that they put up, is still going to take away their natural sunlight and their natural basic use of their land. As the gentleman before spoke, he did state that most people get out of work at around 5 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, 6:30, that sun going down, they're not getting any sunlight. So the $30,000 investment that they made in their yard is now all for naught. So that's just another point. Are you gentlemen the only owners of the property? There's no other financial backers, I should say?
General partners, and these are the managing general partners. There is no other entities associated with the partner.
Just reiterate what you just said.
Okay. As I said before, the project is entitled to a limited partnership. A limited partnership is made up of at least one general partner or one limited partner. These are the managing general partners. These gentlemen here are sitting at the table, and they will be the ones obligated to operate the project for 35 years in accordance with the indenture restricted covenant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So as you can see from the neighbor's standpoint, this affects it's going to affect more than 7, 8 properties. It's going to affect the neighborhood. With that being said, you have Dixon Avenue. What will be, obviously everybody knows Greenridge. Our big question in Greenridge is water runoff and whatnot. Will that be taken care of, and how will that be taken care of on the land? Will it be followed normal regulations with water runoff?
Yes, regarding stormwater runoff, we will be disturbing over an acre. So we'll have to apply for an NPDES permit from the State Department of Environmental Protection, as well as we'll be tying into a combined sanitary and storm system, Scranton Sewer Authority, PA American Water, so we'll have to meet their requirements as well for detention. Actually, the entire property is it's paved, so we'll be reducing the runoff, but we still have to probably provide some underground detention.
Okay, thank you. Any restaurants, anything like that in the building? Okay, so it's just residential only. And you stated before, if I'm not mistaken, and I may have heard wrong, so I just want to make sure I'm correct on this. You had stated before that in the land itself and in the building itself with the employees, possibly people from Geisinger coming in to help with, we'll say services and educational services for some of the residents. There's substantial parking for employees, residents, and those people, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Other than that, obviously my concerns are fire department, making sure that they have access to the building, and the residents. The residents are what make up the neighborhood. From a neighborhood standpoint, I don't think anybody here will ever say it. We're not against development of anything, but we have to take the residents that live there, and keep them in mind when we're doing things. And we also don't want to take away from what they have now. We understand that development is going to happen, and development is a good thing in the city, but we just have to take into consideration, the neighbors at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I heard the whole building would be sprinkled. The whole building was sprinkled up to all fire codes. But just a question for the council. We're here for a zoning setback and zoning height, correct, guys? Is that what we're applying for? If that, I mean, if we can get that approved tonight, we will work with the neighbors. We could probably configure this building a little bit different. But in order for us to meet our goals and our deadlines, we have to have permission for that setback and the zoning tonight to apply that. So we could tweak this, technically move the parking lot up, out back and stuff like that, just as long as we meet the setbacks that are set by you guys. So we can tweak that a little bit. So we're here to work. This is just the first plan there, but because of where it is in the neighborhood, we have to meet those setbacks and the height thing. So if we were approved for that, we still have to come, as you guys know well, the planning, zoning, and everything else to get this project approved. The way this process works, we would put in for November. We would not hear to next June if it's approved, and then at that point, then we would go and start the process. But in that process, then we have to get our financing and everything together here. So like I'm saying, we're here to work with the neighborhoods. It'd be an excellent building. And like you said, if you're a fireman like that, we can probably move that. But we can't move it 50 feet from back of some of those yards because the lot just doesn't allow it. But too, like if we put the parking in the back, a lot of that, then you may be seeing the headlights coming in your backyard, which I kind of think that would be better there. So, I mean, that's what we're looking for. And we're not trying to give anybody here a hard time. This is just our plan here. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It kind of goes back to the meeting we had before with regards to the North Washington property in terms of bringing the people together and, you know, seeing what will work. So I guess that's kind of, you know, and I understand their plight. I know that they've got deadlines to meet. I understand that. I've worked in this business for many years with the city. But I think, you know, bringing everybody together like we're going to do with the previous project is something that could be beneficial to all to find a middle ground. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for this group here, so I don't know who wants to come up and answer this question. It's regarding your timeline. I need someone to answer from there first. I understand the project's up against a timeline. I'm sure like the previous one that just left here was the same way too. Just out of curiosity, why come at the last minute, like where there's no buffer? Like to say, if we table this and get together with these neighbors like we did the first one, does that impede your project to come back next month?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Well, why come at the last minute? It's just curiosity I have, you know, sitting up here.
Well, the project we just brought to fruition a few months ago, so we realized it was a prime location that we could develop. And we invested money and determined that, you know, and we want to take it to the next step. Then we did more land survey. We hired a civil engineer to come on board. And then when we finally do our calculations on parking, we check our zoning setbacks. At that point, we say, here's our issues. Here's how we need to address them. And as soon as we got our land developed, our preliminary land development schematic designs, we recognized the issues, which brought us to apply for the variance.
That's correct. We just missed the last month. I met with Mr. Sweeney, I don't even know how many weeks ago. We just missed the submission for the last month. So
That's true. They have been working with my office.
Yeah, I'm not holding your feet to the fire or anything like that. Just curiosity. I mean, because we see it time and time again, and then it's kind of like we're held against the wall. If we hold this up or turn it down, the developer's going to walk away, and that's an onus put on us that shouldn't be put on us. I mean, there should be, 'cause as you can see, I mean, there's opposition to, maybe not opposition to the project as a whole, but opposition to your encroachment on their properties. And you're asking, and I'm going to speak for myself, not the rest of the board, you're asking me to vote and put blind faith in you to approve these variances and the contingency like that you're going to move this building, which you may come back and say, no, we can't do it, and we approved it at that point there. And do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not ready to do that. Sure.
Pardon me. If just looking at our plan right now, and I know we're requesting 10 feet, a relief from 30 to 10 on the rear and the sides. Just looking at the front of the property, if we remove some landscaping, I'm sure we can get that closer to 15 or 15.
You're only picking up 5 feet at that. That's not going to appease these people sitting behind you. I just wish thought was put into this when, you know, like you said, the last couple months of your meeting, to look at 2 avenues to look at this project, you know? Because I'll be honest with you, the majority that I see in the parking is in the rear for whatever reason. I mean, I have no objection to parking in front, but the objection I see is the closeness to the neighbors in the rear here right there. You are putting up a 50-foot building. And it is a big building to put up right there. So I just wish there was time to take a look at this again and see if you could pull that forward.
Well, Mr. Chairman, is it possible that you could just condition the grant of the variance such that you are not just simply relying upon our word saying we'll do it, but grant the variance such that it will compromise in terms of the distance located from the setbacks on the back or the rear of the building?
Well, if I'm going to do that, then I want to put a footage on it, because, I mean, no disrespect, but the answer of 5 feet wasn't an answer. So, I mean, again, I can vote that and approve that, and you're going to come back and say, well, we come up with 5 feet, and that's what we're doing, and again, it doesn't appease these people that have investment in that property already.
Well, I'm suggesting, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, I'm just saying, I'd like to get a solid number is what I want to look at.
We would be willing to have a footage set into the condition variance. We wouldn't object to that. We're not asking you to say, trust me.
Well, again, I'm not trying to tie their hands either. So, I mean,
but in terms
I was hoping they can come up with the answer tonight that, yes, we could do this, we can move it 20 feet forward, or, you know, split that difference.
I think what Dan said about splitting the parking front and back, but I think before we put any kind of stipulation, we should listen to the rest of the neighbors to see what their concerns are.
I was just going to answer your question as to why it's so imminent tonight. And I don't know if you still want to answer that question. As part of the Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code, the IRS charges each state with coming up with what they call a qualified allocation plan. The qualified allocation plan includes the geographic and demographic needs of affordable housing in the Commonwealth, and also creates a period for applying. That deadline is coming up in, I guess, 3.5, 4 weeks from now. So we need to provide, as part of our application, which takes us about 6 months to assemble, a proof that we have been granted the zoning variance that we requested, because PHFA doesn't want to waste its time awarding tax credits to projects that may never meet the various different zoning requirements.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Now, let's let...
This might answer a lot of those questions, though.
Go ahead.
After talking with our guys, we're willing, technically, to flip the building and put the parking in the back, and if we have to, we will reduce the length of the building to meet the setbacks. And we would agree to that tonight.
Let's let the rest of the audience come up and give their view on this. I appreciate that, though. Hi, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name.
Amy Walsh, W-A-L-S-H, 1731 Sanderson Avenue, Scranton, PA.
Thanks.
Obviously, my husband and I, who just spoke before, are very affected by the prospect of this building coming into our backyard, practically. But there are other issues. As a teacher, you know, I go to school around the same time the students are going to school at the Electric City Academy. Dixon Avenue is extremely chaotic in the morning and when I'm returning from school in the afternoon. We already have a apartment building for seniors on Dixon Avenue. Then we have the Electric City Academy. And just today I noticed part of the building that houses the Electric City Academy, there is a for lease sign on the building. I believe it's connected or adjacent to the Electric City Academy. So I'm just curious, you know, is that another issue that's going to cause traffic on that street. When the students are dismissed from the Electric City Academy, the ones that don't take the bus, they pretty much walk down the middle of the road. So when I'm coming home, I teach elementary school, I teach at Neil Armstrong, I come up Greenridge Street and I turn onto Dixon. There's a part of Dixon Avenue on the 1600 block where there's no sidewalk. So they just continue from, they start off in the middle of the sidewalk and they proceed down the middle of the road. You also have buses, and these are children with special developmental needs, ranging from kindergarten to 12th grade. So I don't know. I just feel it's a safety issue. Of course, I have a lot to lose if this goes up. It's pretty much going to ruin my summer as a teacher. But I really think that the board should consider, the area that this building is going to go up. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Stay there, please. Let me ask you a question. What's your feeling on the proposal, what they just said, as a neighbor there, if they pull that building to the front of the property and then put the parking lot in the rear, which is 30-some feet, if I'm not mistaken?
It still doesn't make me feel better. It's still an infringement on my property regardless. I can't say that I would be happy about it, and I do not begrudge, seniors a place to live. I feel terrible that I'm fighting it, but at the same time, it is my property, and I think there's other issues to consider.
Thank you. Good evening. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
Michael J. LaForce, 1713 Sanderson Avenue, Scranton, PA, 18509. Last name L.A. space capital F-O-R-C-E. Now my question for you guys is, you said it's a benefit for us in Greenridge, but it's low-income housing. So if I decide to sell my house when I'm 62, I won't be able to move into that building. Because you said it's low income. And technically, I'm not low income.
It's 62 and above, and it's based on the people's income. Now, if you sell your house for $200,000, you can have that in the bank, because that's an asset, not an income. 95% of people that are going to be living there are on Social Security and small pensions. So technically, if you were on Social Security, sold your house and have $200,000, that's an asset. That's not an income. That's the way it's based.
So you're just going to take a part of what we have as an income?
Correct. That's the way it's calculated. And because it's a low-income housing, when you say low income, and I'm from Scranton County, 75% of Scranton County is low income. Basically, that's like $50,000 a year or less.
Yes.
So technically, and this is also for, if you have no money, you cannot get in this building. There's a lower limit as income and an upper limit. So, so if you're living on Social Security, just say you got $1,000 a month or $1,500, you qualify to live in this building. Now, basically, if somebody, and you may be paying the rent, if somebody had $800 a month security, they would be paid less because it's based on your income.
So then basically anybody can move into the building?
That's
62.
62 and above.
Correct, 62 or better.
62 and better, and if you have assets, like I said, it could be anything.
Okay.
It's not that's not income. We have other buildings. If you guys want to go online, some of the buildings we do, they're beautiful. So you would not be restricted if you were 62.
Then I wouldn't use low income.
Well, it's called low-income housing tax credit. We're not trying to deceive anybody here, but everybody in the building is elderly.
Because I'm thinking, like, here, I'm catty-corner to the building, so I'm going to see the building.
Right.
That's
So you're
facing
62.
my property.
I'm 60, so in 2 years I can move in.
Yeah, but I'm just saying is I just want to make sure that when I'm 62, here's a building that I can't use because you said it was low income. I would just make sure that you.
I don't want to. The term. I don't want to use the word total income.
Gentlemen, we're getting off track here with the testimony. Whether you can live in the building or not.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
To be detailed, there is provisions in section 42 that sets forth what minimum income you have to have, and it's basically 60% of area median income of the county. So it's not just an arbitrary, I was saying you're making too much or too little.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address, and please spell your last name.
It's Philip Jevin, J-E-V-I-N, and I'm at 1741 Sanderson Avenue. So, I mean, like many of the others, many of my issues come to the setbacks in the drawing. Specifically, looking at the 11 feet to, I know the Walsh's property specifically. I'm a few properties adjacent to that, so my setback is a little closer. I'm actually within setback of that specific building. However, just seeing the actual distances, the setback on all three sides is really a big concern of mine. I mean, you're really squeezing that building into that property. There's, you know, a very high percentage, not quite to the 60%, but compared to some of the other buildings around, it's really kind of packing that building in there. And I just really wanted to point out that of the 9 properties listed behind the building, I'm counting at least 6 of those properties accounted for here, showing support against the property. 6 of my neighbors are all here. A 7th actually recently deceased that I'm sure would be here as well.
Just a question. Your units, 30 units, what's the square footage of each unit?
I think he stated before they were all over 800 square
So
feet.
I didn't hear it, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Am I right? That's what you testified to?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to give testimony in this case tonight? Good evening. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
My name is Leonard Holzman, Holzman. I live at 1757 Sanderson Avenue. I own 3 properties on that corner, which is 1759, and an apartment building on 26 at 628 Electric Street. We've owned that property since 1987. My wife had a preschool there in the corner for many, many years. We retired and we moved into the home of 1757 now for approximately 8 years. We've owned that property over much longer. I've seen a lot in the area since 1987. I'm born and raised in the plot section. Traffic is a big concern. Okay, I have been down to City Hall in regards to the traffic on Sanderson Avenue, the speeding, and the fact that the safety issues from the city are not met in any way, shape, or form. In regards to crosswalks and something to slow the traffic down. The speeding on Sanderson Avenue is extremely high, and we've seen many, many accidents and I don't mean to be redundant here, but the fact that Dixon Avenue now is being populated the way it is with the schools, and it's all an asset for our area. I'm not going to deny that in any way, shape, or form, but as the young lady was just up here talking about the children walking down the middle of the street, there are sidewalks situations there that are not being taken care of, and that all has to come together in order for these projects to go and be a part of the community. It certainly is a nice looking building, and it certainly seems like a viable thing. I think we also have to consider what could go in there if this doesn't go in there. What is that zone for, and what can be put in there? It's something to think about. But again, we have to come to grips with the traffic and the children there. For that street there, and also Sanderson Avenue with the children over to Robert Morris. That's all I want to say. And
thank you very much. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name. I'm sorry.
I do.
Please state your name and address, and spell your last name, please.
Kathleen Madzin, M-A-D-Z-I-N, 102 Watchers Drive, Scranton, PA. I'm here actually for another event, but after listening to the testimony here, these gentlemen are here for a variance in height, or a variance for height and setback. And I feel that affects all of our neighborhoods. So I'm a representative of the Southside neighborhood. I think if you open a variance, to cut a variance from 30 feet back to 10, and you do it here in Greenridge, you're probably going to end up having to do it over in my neighborhood, as well as North Scranton and everywhere else around the city. Also for the height as well. There are reasons that you folks already listed rules and regulations for development. There are books, there are laws on the books that you have to follow, and I do understand certain ones to come back and ask for a favor here and there. But when you're cutting something by 2/3 and allowing that to perhaps be approved, you now can open that to any development in any section of town, and people could be right on top of each other. I feel it devalues neighborhoods. I feel it devalues, obviously, the properties that are being abutted with this building. And there's many other topics that were brought off, such as sewer and all these other things that haven't even been figured out yet. And meanwhile, they want to make sure they can just plop the building in this tiny little square. So there's a lot of things that I ask you as the board to consider that are going to impact future projects and future impacts on neighborhoods that this might bring up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, as a community partner, and that's again how we view ourselves as a community partner. We know we've done a lot of work in this area. You know, we vow to work with the residents to meet certain needs, and we recognize that. Probably won't be able to meet all needs, but we'll be working with the community. Moving the building forward, just digging through some of the plans is very viable. We can do that. But I believe we would still need the variances correct for the parking lots to even move the building forward. So the restrictions on the building height, and we still need the variances on the sides for access and along the back properties, correct? So, but we can move the building forward. We will be able to.
I think you'll remove the need for the 30-foot in the rear if you put the parking lot in the back. I think you'd still need it in the sides. Now, keep in mind, one side has a approximately 30-foot wide alley, so it's really only one property that's affected. We could try to squeeze it all over to one side. I can't promise a dimension, but it would definitely be more than 10 feet, probably closer to 15 to 20 that we'd be providing. I apologize, I can't provide an exact number without getting into the drawings and really analyzing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to make that a stipulation that they do swap that parking lot around, Dan, if that's possible.
Well, let's go, yes, but let's go through it first, exactly what variances we need here. The first would be a use variance, because they're in a light industrial zone, rather than putting an industrial building there, they're asking for a mid-rise apartment. So that's the use variance part of it. The second one they asked for was the height variance from 40 feet to 50 feet. The third one they asked for is, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a parking, you're 33 required and you're asking for 30. Am I correct in that? So they're asking for a reduction of 3 parking spots from 33 required to 30. The fourth one is our ordinance has a minimum lot area per dwelling unit, which is at it's required 2,000 square feet, and their building would have 1,800 square feet per dwelling unit, lot area per dwelling unit. Those 4 are not going to be affected by moving the building. Okay, those 4 are not affected by moving the building. What would be affected by moving the building would be one of the 3 setbacks from residential lot line. By moving the building, they would no longer need the 30 feet. They would be more than 30 feet from the residential lot line in the back. They would still need the 30 feet on each side. They're proposing 12 on one side and 16 on the other.
Well, before we go any farther, I want to take a look at that map again. I'm looking at the project as it sits right now that you presented to us, and maybe something you guys should look at. You're going to still have the same number of parking spots in that rear of that building with them 2 properties jutting out like they do? You're still going to hold your 30 parking spots in the rear by moving it forward? Because I'm looking at these 2 properties here that extend into
Currently, we're only schematic design, so we do have the flexibility to adjust the building.
And also can adjust the necessary setbacks.
I'm not talking about setbacks, I'm talking about parking spots. In the front, you have 30. That back lot is configured a little bit different because you have them 2 properties that stick out a little farther.
Well, I think what he's saying is that they can adjust the building. If they're a foot or 2 short, they can adjust the building size, is what he's saying.
Reduce the width of the building.
The width, the depth though I'm looking at.
Well, if you move it forward, you should have enough space to put the 30 space.
I just want to be sure, you know, that you're not shortchanging yourself. You know?
All right, let me ask you this. You're saying you can reduce the width of the building so you don't need the relief of the setbacks on either side?
Well, we would like to get.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
If we have to reduce the building to get it, on the one side, it only seems to me that it's the one side, am I correct?
Yeah, my concern wasn't setbacks in that question.
It's only you're right, there is only the one side because the other side is on the alley.
Yeah.
so yeah.
My question was regarding the parking. If you flipped it to the back, will you still be able to obtain the same number of spots? Because as I said, them two properties on the right-hand side come out a little bit farther.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now addressing Mr. Walsh's condition that the building be moved to the front of the lot without a reduction of any parking spots. And the only side relief that they need would be on the Xanthus, I guess is the name, side. I think she testified before. It would be reduced from 30 feet to 12 and perhaps less, or perhaps a little bit more than 12 if they can reduce the side there. I don't know if you want to vote on each of the variances separately, or if you want to do it as one project. That's up to the board to figure out.
Is it possible to add I mean, you're still going to have a buffer for that parking lot back there. Can we do a possible fence and some shrubbery in front of the fence?
Absolutely. These sites will be fenced in, green spaced all over the place. I'm very big on curb appeal. We're not just leaving it blank. And we could agree on with the neighbors for the fencing. In past projects, I actually paid for the fencing along the neighbors thing so it goes uniform across that. We'd be willing to do that also.
So we'd be talking fence and vegetation.
Please.
Vegetation, we're absolutely willing. And would that be part of the planning commission to decide that? And so we would definitely agree to green space and fencing. And it won't be a chain link fence either. It'd be a nice fence.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry? Okay. So we're voting on the project as a whole with the 4 variances requested not changing, and then we're moving a condition, couple of conditions. One, that the building be moved to the front of the lot without reduction of parking. And that the fence and vegetation on the residential side be provided. Is there anything else the board is considering?
So that fence would be for the residential on the side also, correct?
If they don't have the 30 feet on the Xanthus side, then they have to have the fence and the vegetation on that side too. Right, by moving the building, the only setback is the one side, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to vote with the conditions.
Second.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Chairman Gattens?
No. By a vote of 4 to 1, your project has been approved, and good luck.